Hello, garden friend. My garden is struggling a bit, and it's all because of mistakes I've made. Today, I'll be addressing 5 of those mistakes and giving you tips on how you can avoid those mistakes or fix the damage they've caused. And stay tuned to the end because I have a special message for gardeners just like me who are dealing with the aftermath of the mistakes they've made in their gardens. Welcome to Finding Joy in the Garden. My first garden mistake was not watering properly. So let me show you this. Look at this soil here. This soil is dry. I did not keep up on a schedule watering these plants, and a lot of the soil has dried out. So a lot of these plants, especially the ones that are in containers, rely on being regularly watered to keep the plants alive. But even your in-ground beds require regular watering, especially if you're not getting a lot of rainfall. So you can see this soil here. Look at this soil. I have clay soil and it's dry, it's caked. Look, this is rocky. So the plants here are going to struggle a bit trying to get water out of this rocky earth. And the longer you leave your soil dry, the harder it is to rehydrate it, because the soil becomes hydrophobic, which means it is scared of water, scared, and it doesn't really accept water. It's going to take me a while to rehydrate this soil, so I have to get back to a regular schedule of watering. For instance, I'm not going to get rain here for a couple more days, so I have to come out at least once a day and give it a deep watering, not just sprinkling water on the soil, but actually giving the soil time to absorb the water. Now, some plants like peppers are more likely to be forgiving of your poor watering schedule, but there are others that just wilt and wither away if you don't water them properly. So be extra careful with those. And consider making everything easier on yourself and automate your watering by setting up irrigation. That's a huge task for me. I'm thinking about doing that maybe next year. Don't hold me to it, but that will take a lot off my plate to have the watering automated, and that way the plants will be happier. Mistake number 2 is not keeping up with pests and diseases. So this here is my squash plant, and if you've watched any of my other videos, this was a big glorious plant. But in my area, squash bugs and squash vine borers are a thing. They love your squash more than you do. So I was fighting back the squash bug and what I thought was a cucumber beetle, but actually may be a squash beetle, which I'd never heard of before. But those two pests, oh, see, there's a squash bug, or is it a stink bug? Let me see if I can show you. They're very reclusive. They like to hide. Let me see if I can. You see it? Yeah, they're all over. Oh, there's another one right there. So if you cannot tell, they have won this battle. I've let them have the plant. So this plant has been attacked by both of these pests, and they have absolutely decimated it. Now, I did make a valiant effort to fight them back. This is the larval. Can you see it? The larval form of the beetle, which I believe is the squash beetle. And these actually eat the leaves as well, and they help spread disease. So I'm going to have to take these out. But those two pests totally destroyed this plant, which was a very beautiful plant, but I couldn't keep it under control. Now, in my area, growing squash, I mean, you kind of know they're going to win at some point. It was beautiful while it lasted, and I'll take that as a win. So with pests and diseases, you want to figure out for your area when they come around. So if you want to keep a record of when you start to notice these pests in your garden, that would be great, because then next season, you know, okay, I get the cucumber beetle about this time of the year. I should start looking out for them, start doing anything I need to do to take care of them. If you get the squash bugs, or if you get hornworms and you know when they're supposed to come around, you can be ready for battle. This here is my tomato tunnel, and I did not keep up with spraying. I had a routine of spraying a hydrogen peroxide spray and a baking soda spray, which I've done for years, but this year life was lifing. I was a little too busy and I couldn't get around to it. So I was doing well until maybe 2 months ago, where I stopped spraying, and you can see, I mean, the difference is clear. Last year about this time I had a complete tunnel of green all the way to the top, couldn't see through it. And this year, I mean, not only have I not sprayed, I didn't even tie the tomatoes up, so they're just falling around the place. I mean, I still have tomatoes, come on, like, it's not all bad. They're tomatoes. I've been snacking on tomatoes, but it could have been better. So that's my mistake. I didn't keep up with spraying to keep away the blight and all the other tomato diseases. And how could I forget powdery mildew? Just look at this leaf. I mean, this area here, this area where I live, powdery mildew is apparently a big deal. I gardened in another area in Georgia for a couple of years and had no issues with powdery mildew, but between last year and this year, I've realized that it's a thing here. They destroyed my black-eyed Susans here, and my flower garden is completely decimated by powdery mildew, which just tells me I need to keep record of that. I need to do some research on how I want to handle powdery mildew in my garden, because it's going to be an issue. So keep a record of the things that happen in your garden so you have information to fight back with next season. This here is a Corbaci pepper, and this was eaten down by a huge hornworm. And these are all new leaves. It had 0 leaves on it, 0 leaves. It just had 3 peppers hanging off of it and not a leaf in sight. So I need to remember next year about the same time to keep an eye out for hornworms, and I have a plan on how to handle them. I use a spray called BT, which is a bacterial spray which takes care of the hornworms. I just need to know when they're coming around. Didn't do that this year. So in essence, know what you have to deal with in your garden. Slugs or snails, rabbits, deer, powdery mildew, squash bugs. Know what attacks your garden. Keep a record, and that way you can make a plan of attack for how to deal with them the next season. Mistake number 3 is not fertilizing on a schedule. Now, when I set up the garden, I did start off fertilizing. I had some granular fertilizer I put in the soil, and then some quick acting fertilizer as well. But I didn't keep up the schedule of fertilizing. And the plants do need nutrition. Depending on the soil you're starting off with, you may need to fertilize more frequently or less frequently. For instance, this soil here is not good. I just set up this bed this season, and the soil was the regular clay soil in the ground, and I added a little bit of organic matter, but not enough, I don't think, to take care of the plants. So it would have needed more fertilization than, say, a bed I set up a few years ago and had been constantly fertilizing and adding organic matter to. So this bed definitely would have benefited from more fertilizer. Now, it's your garden. You get to decide what kind of fertilization you want to use. Compost would be great, organic fertilizers. If you want to use an inorganic fertilizer, your garden, your business. But putting that on a schedule will help you keep up with keeping your plants well fed. So you can see this pepper plant, the leaves could be greener. They could be greener. There's a little bit of yellowing going on there. So they could do with a good drink of water soluble fertilizer. I should have done that. I didn't do it. So that's one of my mistakes. So the tip for you is keep a record of when you need to fertilize. Put it on a schedule, put it in your phone, have a garden diary, whatever you need to keep it on a schedule. Decide how often you're going to fertilize, and that way you have a reminder when you need to do it. That should keep your garden happy. My 4th garden mistake is keeping all these dead plants in. I just never got around. So look at this. This is a tomato vine that obviously, I mean, look at it. It's dead. I should have come in and taken this off. This one here, I have cucumber plants that have been dead for a while, but I could have taken off, and they're still here, sitting here. Now, what's the problem with that? Well, some of these things carry diseases. They might have been killed off by disease, and leaving them sitting here, you might be helping the disease complete its life cycle, helping some pests complete their life cycle, helping them overwinter in your soil. So it's best to just, when you see them, pull them, take them out. Some of these, if they just died of natural causes, you didn't water them like me, and they shriveled up and died, you can always add them to your compost bin, or just kind of chop and drop them, lay them on the ground, use them as mulch. But if they're diseased, you might want to just cut them off and put them in the trash, so you're not recycling it into your garden, if that makes sense. So in summary, you see a dead plant, you pull a dead plant. Easy enough. Now, the fifth garden mistake we're going to talk about, and make no mistake, these are not the only mistakes I've made, but these are the 5 we're talking about. The fifth mistake is not harvesting on time. Look over here. I have these gochujara peppers. They've been ripe for weeks. I haven't come around to pick them. Did you just see that pepper fall off? I haven't come around to pick them. I have habanero peppers in there. I have some serrano peppers that are ripe. I have jalapenos. There are peppers everywhere. And tomatoes. And humongous okra that's now not good to eat. Like, lady, I made a whole video. Well, a short, but a whole video about picking your okra. Don't plant okra if you're lazy. Look at me listening to my own advice. I have okra everywhere that needs to be picked. And more peppers. I mean, okay, you get the point. I need to harvest. Even my flowers have been neglected. This is a zinnia. I should have picked this off. And the problem with leaving these things on the plant is that you're kind of stopping your plant from being its very best. If you take this off, the plant is obliged to make more. But now that it has this flower on here that's dying, it's actually making seeds, and it's busy. It thinks it's done its due diligence, it's made babies, it doesn't have to do much. If you keep it pruned, take the flowers that are dying off, then it starts making other babies. More pests. See that? Pests everywhere. So yeah, pick your stuff. I have eggplants here to pick. I have more peppers. If I take these off, then the plant can start flowering. There's not a flower to be seen on this pepper plant. If I take these off, then it'll flower again and make me more peppers. Who doesn't like more peppers? I like more peppers. One tip for making harvesting easier, especially if you have a large garden or a farm, is not thinking of harvesting as in harvesting the entire garden or farm, but break it into little pieces. For instance, today I will harvest basil. So I'll just come out and harvest only basil and get that situated. And then the next day I might decide to harvest peppers. But if I think of, I have to harvest the entire garden, I might think, oh, it's going to take me a whole hour. I don't have an hour. But you always have 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 20 minutes to come out and pick something. So I'm going to listen to my own advice and come out today and harvest basil, because, oh, my basil. This is the Siam Queen Thai basil, which the bees adore. I sometimes wonder if I have a bee farm or an actual garden. They're just, look at them. There are 3 right here, and they're huge. But I'll come out and harvest these basils because I have basil everywhere flowering. Look at that. I haven't pruned any of these basils. So I can do that today. And then maybe tomorrow I'll pick tomatoes, and the next day I'll pick peppers. And that way I can get the harvesting under control. So that might be something you want to do in your garden as well. Now, having said all that, will I get all these mistakes fixed and my garden up and perfect? No, I will not. It's hot out here, people. I'll get to some of it in time. I'll do what I can. I'll do the more important things first. But chances are I won't get to it all, and that's okay. Give yourself grace, even in the face of gigantic okra. It's okay to prioritize yourself above your garden. Yes, the garden may take a hit, but in the grand scheme of things, it'll be just fine. There'll be another season. The milk is already spilled. No need crying over it. Learn from it and move on, and say no to garden guilt. I hope that helped, garden friend. And if it did, let me know in the comment section. And if you've made any mistakes in your garden, leave them there as well. Until next time, may you always find joy in your garden and your life. Bye, garden friend.